We're going to look back at the year 2015, and we're going to reflect what an important year it was in a remarkable time of growth and transformation in the City of Richmond. We're starting to realize the city's bold future that was expressed in our official community plan, which takes us right out to the year 2041. And as proof of that, we're going to look today at some examples of the changes, all of which are planned, managed, and sustainable. We've had an unprecedented level of new construction. There's the rapid transformation of our city centre, and we're able to maintain steady job growth all the time. Now, targets such as those found in our official community plan and the city centre area plan are supported by strategies that are meant to enhance our robust economy, protect our environment, provide the requisite civic infrastructure, and all the time maintain Richmond's enviable quality of life. Sound financial planning has enabled us to add to the community amenities while we enhance our civic services and we innovate to improve the customer experience. Council every year is investing millions and millions of dollars to expand our green spaces, our parks, and our recreational areas. Our city is very well respected for our leadership in service delivery and excellence, yet at the same time we do experience some challenges, and we'll talk a little about that a little later. So to start off 2015, what better way is there than to highlight some of the city's progress and our interesting challenges, and we'll do this in the context of a number of categories. First of all, there's building our city, room to play, serving our residents, innovation through collaboration, keeping Richmond sustainable, financing the future, facing our challenges, and our commitment to excellence. So 2015 was a record year for construction activity in our city. The construction value of the permits that were issued almost hit $1 billion, and that was 23% more than our previous all-time high. And if you look at it over 5 years, in the last 5 years, we issued almost $3 billion in construction value in terms of our permits. So this has been a sustained period of growth for Richmond. And the number of construction permits themselves, it's not just the big projects that are doing all that. The number of construction permits has also increased over those years. Now, most prominent in our growth is the multifamily residential construction. And that's especially the case in the Oval area and the Capstan Village Gateway. Now, the Oval Village, depicted here, this is a picture of the first phase of the River Green development near the Oval. That whole area is becoming a highly livable urban waterfront community as we originally envisioned when we sold the land to ASPAC as we are preparing to build the Oval. And over on in the north end of the city centre in the Capstan Village, we levy development levies. On every unit there's a levy, and we're about a third of the way towards our goal of raising $25 million through those levies, and that's going to be used to fund the Canada Line station at Capstan Way. Not to be outdone, we have the commercial sector. That's also active with some major projects. Over on Sea Island, we have the MacArthur Glen retail outlets. I'm told that another phase of that development is going to be starting before too long. And on Garden City, we have the Smart Centres Walmart retail complex. There's a recent construction shot, and that is going to be completed in about a year. But more generally, over the next few years, you can expect to hear about major redevelopment proposals in the city centre, such as the Lansdowne Centre site, and always near the casino is the Duck Island project, which is the largest single application that we have received as a city. All this growth is going to add hundreds of jobs to our local economy, and many of them, of course, will be permanent because after the construction is finished, they'll be in the retail sector or some of them will be in the office sector. Now, last September, with the assistance of the development contributions, we were able to open the much-anticipated City Centre Community Centre right in the heart of downtown. And in that same building on the third floor, we were very pleased to welcome the Richmond campus of Trinity Western University, thus adding to the post-secondary offerings that we're able to provide in the City of Richmond. When you look over the last 5 years, the city itself has spent over $500 million on capital projects. And as part of that, we have the facilities construction plan where work is now progressing. This is the Minoru complex that you see depicted here. We have the Minoru complex and we have the two fire halls, the Brickhouse Fire Hall and the Canby Fire Hall. Now in Minoru, these facilities are to replace the old, outdated, and outgrown and inadequate facilities we now have. So we have a new pool. This is an artist's rendering of that new pool. And we also have the senior center that is being built. That will be opened next year, all of it, with about an $80 million price tag. For our community safety buildings, as I say, we're in the process of building the Brickhouse #1 Fire Hall. This is an artist's rendering of what it will look like when it is open. And over in the West Canby area, we have the Canby Fire Hall, which will be home to not only the fire service, fire rescue, but it will be home to the BC ambulance services as well. So overall, in the last decade, we've rebuilt 5 fire halls, a 6th has been retrofit, and also with the RCMP building, which we have opened on number 5 Road, our City Council has ensured that public safety facilities here in Richmond are going to not only meet our current needs, but they're going to be good for the future community needs as well. So how do you pay for all this? Well, I can tell you that the capital costs of these projects are raised through the effective use of our reserves, and we do a modest amount of borrowing so that we can provide these facilities for you without raising our property taxes. An urgent need that we have throughout Richmond and throughout probably the province, certainly throughout Metro Vancouver, is in relation to affordable housing. This is the Kiwanis Towers site on Minoru, right across from the bay. We contributed as a city over $21 million to that project, and we worked with a number of partners on it for 296 affordable seniors rental units. That is so important to us because the fastest growing sector of our population are the seniors. Another project that we invested in is called Stories. That's just east of City Hall on Granville, where the city, we invested over $20 million in that project for 129 affordable units for adults who are at risk. And the volunteer-supported partner agencies who will be occupying that place will not only have room for living units, but there's going to be space for programs, for offices, and social enterprise. Then over at the Oval, in November, we were able to open the Richmond Olympic Experience. This is an innovative and interactive celebration of the Olympics and local sports history. We also expect this to be a major new regional tourist attraction. Over at the Richmond Olympic Experience, there's a number of different components to this, call it a museum, but it's an exhibition. We have the state-of-the-art sports simulators. 3 are depicted here. In the top left is the kayak, below that is the race car, to the right is the ski jump. We also have a sit ski and a bobsled to add to these, and you will find that people of all ages love those simulators. We also have some very fun and interactive experiences over there at the Oval, again for people of all ages, and we complete the experience with, on the right is depicted the touch tables, which talk about what happened in the Olympics, various Olympics, not just in 2010, but various Olympic Games and the story of that in a very interactive way. And on the left are the display cases. Again, these are Olympic exhibits and memorabilia that you will really be able to relate to. When we opened the rocks, we also opened and unveiled the Richmond Sports Wall of Fame. This has been long anticipated to showcase an important component of local sports traditions. So these people here, besides the councillors and a few organizers, these are the original inductees to the Richmond Wall of Fame, and we will be adding to those names each and every year. To come a little closer, this is what we just took random sections of the Wall of Fame just to give you the idea of what you're going to see. There's the nameplate on the left. On the top right, you can see that we tell some interesting stories and have a few interesting photographs. And then decade by decade, we talk about and name the various inductees to the Wall of Fame. So again, that's something that you probably want to see. Turning to room to play. Our population is now about 207,000 people. We expect to grow to 280,000 people by 2041. And when we've done studies, we found that 90% of our residents regularly use our city's facilities and parks. And while those same studies show that the users of the facilities are generally satisfied with them, we need to expand our recreational services to meet the growing needs of our community. So we focus on healthy recreation. Let me give you a few examples of that. Now, you're all familiar with the Garden City lands. You're going to find that work is going to start this spring to include construction of the perimeter trails. So each of us, once they're finished, you can get onto that land to the perimeter and start to really enjoy it. Last spring, we opened the Minaroo Fields. This is a major makeover of the playing fields in Minaroo Park. An interesting aspect that I really want to draw your attention to is on the waterfront. Now this is an artist's depiction, but where you're standing, if you're looking in that direction, is you're at the corner of the oval and you're looking upriver towards the Dinsmore Bridge. And you can see what is being built there starting this summer. There's a pedestrian pier on the left so that pedestrians will be able to go out and enjoy what the water has to offer. And also there's going to be a major plaza. When that is finished, this is phase number 1 of that waterfront park. By the time we're finished, and this will probably be a decade from now, but we've been assembling the lands all along the waterfront so that there's going to be a continuous waterfront park from the Oval almost up to Canby. So it's going to go way past the Dinsmore Bridge, past the Yacht Club, past the boathouse, and go almost to Canby. And I think that there's going to be something for every member of your family. And it's just steps from the downtown area of the city. Then turning to the other corner of Richmond, this is the Gardens Agricultural Park on the old Fantasy Gardens site. 12 acres in size. It was formerly the Botanical Gardens, as I say, and it'll become a new major community park. There will be community gardens there and a farm school program. So we're, again, looking forward to the work finishing on that. In the city center, we have the Lang Park Plaza. This is a very quiet area on Saba Road. It's been redesigned, and work will start this summer on that to have some more animated children's play opportunities in that park. So again, watch for that later this summer. Over at the Oval, we now have over 6,300 members, 75% of whom are Richmond residents. They engage in programs, everything from the fitness on the personal level to the rock climbing that you see depicted here. But we're very excited to say that it was recently announced that Volleyball Canada is going to make the National Training Center for the Canadian women's team right here at the Oval starting in 2017. So that's going to be a really, yeah. And I think many of you will remember when we had the national long track speed skating team here, men's and women's, before the Olympics, how interesting that was and how much they got into the community and were really part of it. And over in Steveston, you've got the museum on the right-hand side connected to the Japanese Benevolent Society building. This is just a small park on Moncton, but it is an important area. And we brought in what's called the Town Square Park Concept Plan right beside the museum to improve the outdoor programming space. So with all of that, you can see how much we are focusing on healthy recreation, and we're investing in it. Now let's turn to how we serve our residents. With growth, there are needs for new and improved services. And we have to focus on the programs that are going to cost-effectively deliver the greatest return. Now, one of the programs, it's not the sexiest one in the world, but it's important, is garbage. We've actually discovered a very high rate of diversion for our single-family dwellings, and we're working towards, our ultimate goal is to beat the Metro Vancouver goal of 80% diversion by 2020. But doing this protects our environment and also reduces our costs. But what is new, and the reason that I'm mentioning this, is because it's important for residents of Richmond to realize that these black bins that you see here on the right, these are going to be delivered to everybody, to all the dwellings in the next couple months. So starting April 1st, those bins are going to be used, and it's going to be picked up every 2 weeks instead of every 1 week. So recycling, the green cart every week, but with the garbage every 2 weeks. So please watch for the public communications to remind you of that. Now, when you're talking about the city and what it provides, of course, it's the events that provide so much interest. Last year, for the first time, we staged the Richmond World Festival. That was a big highlight of the year because it really emphasized our diversity with international music, food, and culture. An extensive planning is going in to what we are planning for 2017. This is going to be a big year for Richmond, for the entire country, because it's the 150th year of Confederation, or anniversary of Confederation. And remember this scene from 2002 when we had the big Tall Ships Festival. We want there to be a return next year, probably around July 1st, but we want to bring back the tall ships to Richmond and to have a big celebration. One of the features that we have confirmed is that this vessel, the Japanese sail training vessel, one of the largest of its kind in the world, the Kaiwa Maru, is going to come back next spring. Last time it was here was in 2004, and we had a big community celebrations around that. Also, for 2017, we're in the final phase of restoring the interurban tram. This is the biggest and most valuable artifact in our heritage collection, and it's going to undergo its final phase of restoration this year so that we can show it off all through next year. Then, turning to innovation through collaboration. We strive for excellence in customer service through the collaborative use of innovative technology. Now, I'm sure you're very familiar with the city's website. We've had it for many years. But in fact, this last year, we improved the search engine. So if you're looking for civic services, it's going to be that much easier to find. We also use the internet for emergency notifications. I want to tell you about it because you may not have heard. There's something called Richmond BC Alert. Richmond BC Alert, all one word. Go onto that website and just give them your information. And if there is an emergency of any major sort, you will get notification of it, and that can come through phone, email, fax, or text, so it's very handy. But another interesting aspect of our high-tech features come from something called iBeacons. Now, this is what an iBeacon looks like, just a little thing. Okay, we've got 10 street signs that are in different colors in Steveston, and these iBeacons interact with the smartphones. So you can, when you go to a site near one of the iBeacons, you'll be prompted if you're on the city, if you download the city app onto your smartphone, And you'll be given some information and informative videos to highlight some of the history in the words of a member of the Japanese Canadian community. And we do plan to introduce that elsewhere in the city as well. But I want to just show you, this is about a minute long, just over a minute long. I just want to give you the flavor of one of the videos.
In the late 1800s, Japanese immigrants first arrived in Steveston, here at the corner of 2nd Avenue and Bayview Street. They had taken a ship from Japan to Vancouver, rode down to Steveston by stagecoach, and disembarked at the former Richmond Hotel. Their new home, once a small fishing camp at the mouth of the Fraser River, was quickly becoming the largest commercial fishery in Canada. 15 canneries produced millions of cases of canned salmon that were loaded up and shipped around the world. One of the first Japanese immigrants was Gihei Kuno from the village of Mio in the Wakayama Prefecture. Impressed by the abundance of salmon in the Fraser, Kuno returned to Mio to recruit fellow villagers, and the flow of immigrants from Mio to Steveston began. By the early 1900s, nearly 2,000 Japanese came for the annual sockeye fishing season. Almost exclusively young men, they lived in cannery-owned bunkhouses along the waterfront and stayed together as family, groups of friends, or fellow villagers. They retained their Japanese culture, and most spoke only Japanese. The arrival of women, beginning in the early 1900s, transformed this village of men into a village of families. By World War II, Japanese Canadians accounted for approximately 2/3 of Steveston's population.
So watch for the iBeacons and download that app, and I think you'll be able to find some interesting information on it. Next, we turn to keeping Richmond sustainable. We're making sustainable decisions for the benefit of future generations, and there's any number of these. For 2 years in a row, we've been carbon neutral as a civic organization. We expect to maintain that into the future. And this picture here is our Alexandra District Energy Utility, which uses the geothermal energy to heat and cool more than 1,100 units in the West Cambie area. Soon it's going to be hooked up to the Walmart site. And we also have another district energy utility around the Oval, which is going to use Metro Vancouver's sewer trunk line for a source of energy. And ultimately, that one will connect to 2,500 new residents. We also have a high-performance building program in the city for the buildings that we built. And all our buildings these days are built to the LEED gold standard. LEED means Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. So the fire halls, Mineral Complex, all of them are being built to that standard. And while we talk about all this, we do have a very ambitious and a progressive agenda, but we also have to watch the dollars all the way along. We have in Richmond some of the lowest property tax levels in all of Metro Vancouver if you compare us to the other large municipalities. So you ask, how do we do that? Well, one of the ways is we focus on job retention and creation. We have the highest jobs to worker ratio of anywhere in the region. And through our Economic Development Office, we were able to either create or keep about 3,500 jobs in the city. Tourism has become a major sector for us as well. Last summer, the local hotels, I know some of the hoteliers are here, they tell me that they had some of the highest occupancy rates in Canada, and when you measure the spending of the visitors who come to Richmond, it was amongst the highest of anywhere in North America. Sport hosting has become important to us as well. It's helped us to secure, in the last 6 years since the Olympics, over 100,000 hotel room nights for the various events. This year, you can count on about 60 events that they're supporting. What they say for sport hosting is for every dollar invested, you get a $5 return to the city. So it is a good investment for all. Filming has also become very popular in Richmond. We've become a major hub. In 2015, is one of the busiest years that we've ever had. We've had 2 major feature films that were shot here, plus numerous television shows this last year. In the upper left is one of the shoots that was down on the waterfront, and on the right, on the bottom, is a picture from Once Upon a Time. Now that TV series has become very popular. It's about to make its 100th episode, and people come from all over to visit Steveston to experience the setting for the fictional storybook. And then over in East Richmond, this is a picture of us on the set, me and most of the councillors, on the set of Deadpool. This is a full-length feature film starring Ryan Reynolds, who's depicted here along with one of the other stars of the shows with members of council, when we were able to go to that shoot. It was mostly shot in Richmond, and it took all of last summer. But mark that down. It's Deadpool. It opens in theaters today. There you go. We got to take her here. Now, for all of that, all of the good stuff, and all of our rapid growth, we also have some rather difficult challenges. One of them is with the large homes, because as our homes are being redeveloped, in the established single-family neighborhoods, sometimes the houses are built out of scale with the surrounding neighborhoods. So we brought in some regulations which somewhat modify the new home size and also the massing of those structures. The bottom right picture is actually a 2.5-story house, but you can see how they've built it to make it look like a 3-story house. Again, so that makes it too much in the wrong place. So we brought in some more regulations to counteract that. But the real problem with the housing size comes from the land use contracts. We took action under provincial legislation this last year to terminate 93 land use contracts, and thus the properties will have to conform to zoning rather than the land use contracts. Briefly, in the 1970s, the government of the day allowed the developers to enter into contracts with the city. So instead of being subject to zoning, all the requirements would be put into a land use contract, which was fine for the time. But once those contracts are registered and after they've been signed, they're registered on titles, you cannot change them, you cannot terminate them unless you get the permission of the landowner. So the province did give us permission to affect these land use contracts. And you can see how they have built the homes. As they're being rebuilt, they're far larger than the surrounding neighborhoods. Look at the bottom, the one on the bottom. It towers over the house next door, and it's also really 3 full floors. But the one I like, in a word, is on the top. There's 3 full floors on a small lot. It towers over the places in the surrounding area. But on top of the 3 full floors, they put a balcony. So they really have 4 floors of living space in that one living unit. It is just out of character with Richmond, and it is just too much. So from this soon, put it this way, they will be subject to the usual zoning requirements. Now, another challenge that we've had is in relation to our police. And you'll see the boards over here and the surveys that are on the table. We do commend those to your attention because we do want your input. Our City Council is looking to see what is the best way to keep our community safe. And this is a very large cost center for us because 20 cents of every tax dollar goes directly to the RCMP. So it's the biggest single cost item we have as a city. So we've described 2 options. We can stay with the RCMP, or we can establish an independent Richmond police force governed by a local police board. And it's one of those questions that the more you dig into it, the more you drill down, the more complex it gets. If for no other reason than the cost to transition to a local force is in the range of $20 million. It's $19.6 million one-time transition cost. Plus, there would be a $2 to $4 million hit onto our operating budget. And that's just to have a force of the same size that we have now. So the question is, and the question is for all of you, what's best for the long run. We want for our community. How can we best keep our community safe? Do we change to a local force? Do we stay with the RCMP? Please take a look at the surveys, give them back to us directly or send them in. Go online, but do give us your input. We have another situation with the replacement of the Massey Tunnel. The province has announced that they're going to replace the tunnel with a bridge, and we all know, everybody in this room is familiar with the kind of congestion that we see on the Highway 99 corridor, and we know that there's congestion that then flows and ensues in Richmond itself. Number 5 Road in Stevenson is the best example, but it's elsewhere as well. We know that we need solutions to the situation, but the question is, what's the best solution? And I say this knowing that the Chamber has taken a position very firmly in favor of this bridge, but our City Council looks at it from a bit more of a global point of view. And we've got a lot of questions that we want answered before we formulate any kind of an opinion. So one of the questions is, how are they solving the northbound traffic problem that you get congestion as you go to the Oak Street Bridge? The Oak Street Bridge is still going to be there. It's still going to be the same choke point that it has always been. So how's that going to work, and how is that going to improve the situation? What about the tolls? How much is it going to cost you each time you go back and forth across that bridge? And is the effect of the tolling going to be simply to send some of the traffic over to the Alex Fraser Bridge, which is the free alternative, which is already very congested and is really at capacity? What about the impact of the bridge on local farming? And that would include that park. Remember I showed you the garden park on the old Fantasy Garden site? And the latest word we got from the government, from the province, is they want to take a strip right along the highway of about 100 feet, going in 100 feet into that, where that park area is. And what are the other land implications for what is protected farmland? So we want to know what their ideas are as a province, what they have planned, where they have it planned as well. There's also a major question regarding the river itself. Is this simply going to encourage more of the big ships coming up that river through the fragile ecosystem of the Fraser River estuary once that tunnel gets removed? So those are just a few of the questions we have asked, and there's going to be a lot more discussion before we're finished that topic. And the last challenge I want to emphasize to you is in relation to Port Metro Vancouver. We want to support the activities of Port Metro Vancouver, and we have worked with them very well in the past. We know that if we have an active port, that results in more trade, which is good for everybody. There's going to be economic benefits, and there's going to be local jobs. It's all very positive. But what they have done is that they have decided to purchase the farmland immediately adjacent to their lands. 240 acres, and you can see it. Okay, there's number 8 Road there, and it's the land on both sides of that, if you can see it over there. So it's all that land there. If I can show you a better shot of this land, this is the aerial view, which shows the port land, and it shows the marked in red. That's the 240 acres that the port has purchased. So what are the implications in terms of our official community plan? We have long held one of the highest values is preservation of agricultural land in our official community plan. And so what is that saying about that value? What is it saying about the agricultural land reserve that is important not only to the City of Richmond, but I think to the entire province? Is it right that a board made up of 13 unelected, unaccountable representatives of industry mostly, who meet in a private room, are able to come into a city and say, we have a shortage of industrial land, we need your agricultural land, and that's where we plan to expand? I just don't think that anything works that way. I don't think that's the whole idea. My opinion entirely. But you've seen lots of discussion about it. So more on that to come. While we have all this good stuff happening and we have all these challenges, our innovative and visionary initiatives have been recognized with many awards last year. We have awards for our expanded Green Cart Organics program, an award for the Kiwanis Towers, for our city center area plan, for the Oval as a landmark sports facility, as a place for foreign direct investment, for reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, for our annual report and financial reporting, for the Maritime Festival, and for the Terra Nova Play environment, to mention just a few. So let me conclude, if I could, by noting that we were elected, and 2015 was the first year of a 4-year mandate. It's been a very busy year, and we expect it to be a very busy and good year in 2016. You know, we as a city have so many advantages and benefits which make us the envy of so many other areas. We have strong volunteer networks. We count on them for all our activities to improve the quality of life for so many different people. We have active partnerships as we incorporate sustainable concepts into local decisions. And our positive financial picture enables the city to cost-effectively improve infrastructure as we grow. Our City Council looks forward to the continued support of our residents, our businesses, our partners, our volunteers, our staff, and so many others, all of whom continue to make Richmond an even better place in which to live, work, invest, and visit.